Everything you think you are, everything you think is real, it's all a lie. Not in the way they tell you to doubt conspiracy theories or question political narratives, but in a way so fundamental, so absolute, that even your doubts are part of the illusion. From the moment you could think, you were conditioned to believe in separateness. You were given a name, an identity, and a history to carry as if they were real. You were told you were a body, a person, a thing that exists in time, moving from past to future. But all of that is an illusion. What if I told you that the one watching, the one aware of these words right now, is not separate from the infinite? That you were never truly lost, never disconnected, never anything other than pure awareness itself? You don't need to seek enlightenment. You only need to remember what was never forgotten. But if that's true, why does it feel like we've forgotten? Why does the world feel so real, so divided, so concrete? To answer that, we need to go back to the moment you first fell asleep inside the dream. The first illusion you were taught was that you are separate, separate from the world, separate from others, separate from whatever you think of as divine. You were given a name and told, "This is you." But who decided that? Before language, before thought, before anyone told you who you were, you simply existed. No labels, no borders, no division, just presence. And yet, over time, you were convinced that you were something small, something individual, something apart from the whole. It was subtle at first. You learned to identify with your body, your thoughts, your emotions. You were praised for achievements, scolded for mistakes, and taught that you were the one responsible for all of it. Every success became personal. Every failure became personal. And with each new layer of identity, the illusion of separateness deepened. You started seeing life through a filter, me and them, right and wrong, before and after. But none of it was ever real. It was only perception. Perception trained into you so deeply that it became the lens through which you see the world. But have you ever noticed the moments when that lens cracks? When you're standing in nature and feel an inexplicable connection to everything? When you're lost in music, forgetting yourself completely? When you look into someone's eyes and just for a moment see something beyond the person, beyond their name, beyond their story? Those moments are glimpses of truth. The mind tries to explain them away. It was just a feeling, just a trick of the brain. But that's the illusion speaking. The greatest lie ever told wasn't spoken. It was assumed. The belief that you are separate from existence itself is the foundation of suffering. Because when you believe you are separate, you believe you are incomplete. And if you are incomplete, you will always seek something outside yourself to make you whole. Love, success, validation, security. You chase these things as if they will finally fill the void. But the void was never real. You were never separate. You only believed you were. This is why people suffer. Not because life is cruel, not because the universe is against them, but because they are chasing something they never lost. The moment you believe you are only the wave and forget you are also the ocean, you start fearing the shore. You start measuring your existence in moments, successes, and failures, rather than recognizing that you are the vast, infinite expanse that holds all of it. And this is where the system thrives. A world built on the illusion of separateness is a world easy to control, because people who believe they are incomplete are always searching for completion. They are always looking for answers in religion, in politics, in material success. They are always looking for someone to follow, someone to save them, someone to tell them who they are. But what if no one could? What if the truth was something no book, no institution, no leader could ever give you, because it was never missing in the first place? Some truths are too deep to be spoken openly. If you want to go beyond the surface, join our free Insights Academy newsletter below, where we reveal hidden knowledge they don't want you to find. You'll even get a free copy of the Kybalion for a limited time. So if the illusion of separateness is so fragile, why do we keep believing in it? The answer is simple: conditioning. From the moment you were born, everything around you reinforced the lie. But now, it's time to break the spell. It's time to see the prison for what it really is. Because once you do, you'll realize you were never truly inside it to begin with. The greatest prisons are not built from walls and chains. They are built from perception. And the most dangerous part? You don't even realize you're inside one. From the moment you opened your eyes as a child, you were given a version of reality, not as it truly is, but as others have agreed to see it. You were told what things are called, what is possible, what is impossible. You were handed a script before you even knew you were an actor in a play. You were taught that reality is exactly what your senses tell you it is: solid, external, absolute. But think about it. The colors you see, they aren't real. Your brain interprets wavelengths of light and assigns them meaning. The sounds you hear, they are vibrations, translated by your mind into something comprehensible. Even time, the very thing you base your entire life around, is not something you can touch, hold, or prove outside of perception. If everything you experience is just an interpretation, then what is real? The mind is a mirror, but instead of reflecting reality, it reflects its own conditioning. You don't see the world as it is. You see it as you are. This is why two people can look at the same event and experience it completely differently. One sees tragedy, the other sees opportunity. One feels pain, the other feels growth. The event itself is neutral. Only the mind makes it something more. But if the mind is shaping your reality, then what happens when the mind itself is shaped by illusion? Imagine a mirror covered in dust. The dust is your conditioning, your beliefs, your fears, your identity. When you look into the mirror, you think you're seeing yourself, but you're really just seeing the dust. You mistake the dirt for your own reflection. And this is how perception traps you, by making you believe that the conditioned mind is you. But it's not. It never was. Everything you think you are has been shaped by something outside of you. Your language limits what you can express. Your culture dictates what is considered normal or strange. Your education system teaches you what to think, not how to think. The moment you begin questioning the framework itself, you become dangerous. Because someone who sees past the illusion cannot be controlled by it. But the illusion fights back. The moment you start to question it, the mind resists. It says, "That can't be true. I know who I am. I know what's real." But do you? Every belief you have is borrowed. Every idea of who you are was planted in you before you had the ability to decide for yourself. So who would you be if none of that had ever happened? This is why spiritual traditions across the world have one thing in common: silence, meditation, self-inquiry, stillness. They don't give you answers, they take away the noise. Because only when the noise fades do you realize the truth. The prison was never locked. The door was never closed. You were just too distracted by illusions to see the way out. But escaping isn't as easy as just knowing the truth. Because by now, the illusion isn't just in your mind. It's in your body, your habits, your daily life. And even when you recognize it, something keeps pulling you back. That something is fear. The fear of losing everything you thought was real. But if none of it was real to begin with, then what exactly are you so afraid of? Fear. That's what keeps you here. Not physical chains, not external forces, just fear. The fear of losing your identity, the fear of the unknown, the fear of what happens when the mind no longer has control. This is how the illusion maintains itself. Because the moment you even consider letting go, the mind steps in and asks, "But then who will I be?" You see, the illusion isn't just something you were taught. It's something you now defend. You were conditioned to fight for it, to protect it, to build your entire existence around it. You believe you are a name, a personality, a collection of memories. But memories are just thoughts, and thoughts are fleeting. They appear, they disappear, and yet you remain. If you were your thoughts, you would cease to exist every time they stopped. But you don't. Something remains, something constant, something deeper than the mind. But how did we get here? How did we become so lost in a dream that we forgot we were dreaming? The answer is simple: repetition. From the moment you were born, reality was presented to you in a certain way. You were given a name, an identity, a nationality, a belief system. You were told what is good and bad, right and wrong. And every time you repeated those beliefs, they became stronger, more real, more a part of you. The more you said, "I am this," the more you believed it. Until one day, you forgot you were ever anything else. Society plays its role perfectly. It rewards those who stay inside the illusion and punishes those who step outside of it. It tells you that success means accumulation. More money, more status, more validation. It tells you that suffering means failure, that happiness is something you must chase, something external, something just out of reach. And so you keep running, never realizing that the act of chasing is what keeps you trapped. But the truth is, you were never trapped. The illusion only works if you believe in it. A child who is raised inside a cage doesn't try to escape because they don't know there's anything outside of it. They accept the walls as reality. And that's what happened to you. The walls were built so early, so carefully, that you never thought to question them. But the moment you do, really do, you start to see the cracks. Think about a time when you felt truly free. Maybe it was as a child before the weight of the world pressed down on you. Maybe it was a fleeting moment standing under the stars, feeling something bigger than yourself. Maybe it was during deep conversation, losing yourself in the presence of another. In those moments, something inside you recognized the truth, not as an idea, not as a belief, but as a direct experience. But then, the mind pulled you back. It told you it was just a feeling, just a passing moment, nothing real. Because that's the mind's job, to maintain the illusion, the ego, the identity, the sense of self. These are not your enemies. They are survival mechanisms. They exist because in a world of form, they help you navigate. But the problem is, they don't know when to stop. What was once a tool became your master, and now you are a prisoner of your own creation. But what happens when you stop believing in the illusion? What happens when you step back and realize that every identity you've ever held was just a story? That's when fear sets in. Because if you are not the identity, not the thoughts, not the labels, then what are you? This is the point where most people turn back. The illusion may be painful, but it's familiar. And the unknown? The unknown is terrifying. But here's the thing. The unknown is only terrifying to the mind, because the mind fears its own dissolution. But what if you are not the mind? What if the thing you've been afraid of losing was never you to begin with? The mind is loud, but the truth is silent. That's why you've never found it in books, philosophies, or even spiritual teachings. Words can only point to the truth, but they can never be the truth itself. You've spent your entire life trying to understand, trying to make sense of existence. But the mind was never meant to grasp something beyond itself. And yet, here you are, seeking, questioning, feeling something just beneath the surface. But here's what no one tells you. You were never supposed to find the answer through thinking. Thought is the very thing that keeps you in the illusion. It divides, categorizes, creates opposites. Self and other, past and future, real and unreal. Thought is a tool, but you mistook it for the master. Enlightenment is not about gaining something. It's about losing everything that was never real. It's about peeling back layers of identity until nothing remains. And when nothing remains, what's left? The one thing that has always been here, awareness, silent, unmoving, infinite. The same awareness that is watching these words right now. But the mind resists. It will tell you, this is nonsense. I have a life. I have responsibilities. I have things to do. And yes, in the world of form, that's true. But you are not just form. You are the space that holds it all. The dreamer, not the dream. And once you realize this, the way you experience life changes forever. So how do you step beyond thought? How do you wake up from the dream? The answer is simple, but not easy. Stop identifying with the mind. Observe it. Watch it like you would watch clouds passing in the sky. A thought arises, and instead of reacting, you notice it. You don't judge it, don't resist it, don't believe it. You simply watch. And in that watching, something shifts. You begin to see that you are not the thoughts, but the awareness behind them. You are not the emotions, but the presence in which they arise. You are not even the body, but the space in which it appears. The more you watch, the more you detach. And the more you detach, the more the illusion starts to break apart. This is why meditation exists. Not to control the mind, not to force peace upon yourself, but to see clearly, to sit in stillness long enough that the illusion fades and reality reveals itself. And here's the paradox. When you stop chasing enlightenment, when you stop looking for answers, when you surrender completely, that's when it happens. Because it was never something to be found. It was something you already were. But make no mistake, the ego will fight back. It has spent years reinforcing its existence, and it will not dissolve easily. It will flood you with thoughts, distractions, resistance. It will tell you this is pointless, that nothing has changed. And if you listen, you'll fall right back into the dream. That's why so few people awaken, not because the truth is hidden, but because they are too identified with their thoughts to let go. They fear that without their identity, without their opinions, without their past, they will be nothing. And they're right. They will be nothing, but only because they were never anything to begin with. And yet that nothing is the most profound thing of all, because it is not emptiness, not non-existence. It is pure, unshakable awareness, the source of all things, the ocean from which every wave arises and dissolves, the space in which everything happens. It is you. It has always been you. So why does the mind resist so much? Why does it fight so hard to maintain its illusion of control? The answer is buried deep within ancient teachings, hidden in symbols, texts, and esoteric knowledge that most people overlook. And among these teachings, one philosophy holds a key that is both liberating and dangerous: the truth about will. Most people live their entire lives following rules they never agreed to, chasing desires that were never truly their own. They follow routines dictated by others, beliefs inherited without question, and expectations placed upon them by a society that thrives on control. But beneath all of that, there is something deeper, a force, a drive, a knowing that whispers from within, a force so powerful that if you were to align with it, nothing could stop you. The ancients called it the will, and the moment you discover it, you become untouchable. The law of Thelema states, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." At first glance, it sounds like an invitation to indulgence, to chaos, to reckless abandon. But that's exactly what those in control want you to believe. They want you to think that true freedom is dangerous, that personal sovereignty is reckless, because the last thing they want is for you to realize the truth. Will is not desire. Will is not impulse. Will is not ego. Your true will is not about doing whatever you want at the moment. It is not about pleasure-seeking or selfish gain. It is about living in complete harmony with the cosmic flow, moving with the current of existence instead of against it. It is the deeper force that has always been pulling you toward your purpose, beyond fear, beyond hesitation, beyond conditioning. Imagine a river. The water flows naturally, effortlessly, always moving toward its destination. The river does not question itself, does not doubt its path. It does not try to flow backward or stop itself out of fear. It simply moves. That is how true will operates. It is not forced, not manufactured. It just is. But the illusion keeps you from seeing it. Society teaches you to conform, to obey, to silence that inner knowing. The system replaces your true will with artificial desires, money, status, approval, distractions designed to keep you from ever questioning whether you were meant for something greater. This is why most people feel lost. They are chasing things that were never meant for them, wondering why they feel empty even when they get everything they thought they wanted, because they are not following their will. They are following someone else's plan. But when you uncover your true will, everything changes. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop wasting time on things that don't align with you. You move through life with an unshakable certainty, not because you know every step, but because you no longer fear where the path leads. When you move with will, obstacles crumble, resistance fades, and life aligns itself in ways you never thought possible. So how do you find it? The answer isn't in logic, it isn't in planning. It is in stripping away everything that isn't yours. Every belief, every expectation, every false desire. Let them go. What remains, what still pulls you forward despite the fear, despite the doubt, that is your will. That is your purpose. Aleister Crowley called it thelema, but this idea existed long before him. Every mystic, every enlightened being, every awakened soul has spoken of this force in different words. The Taoists called it the way. The Hindus called it dharma. The Buddhists called it right action. It is all the same thing, the movement of the universe expressing itself through you. And the best part? The moment you align with it, you become unstoppable. No external authority can dictate your path. No fear can hold you back. You no longer need permission. You no longer need validation. Because when you act from true will, you are no longer acting as a separate individual. You are acting as the universe itself. This is why thelema is so feared. Not because it is dangerous, but because it is liberating. A person who knows their will cannot be manipulated, cannot be controlled, cannot be made to live in fear. They do not look to governments, religions, or social structures to define their purpose. They already know who they are. And that kind of person is a threat to every system built on control. But here's the catch. Knowing your will is only the beginning. Because once you see through the illusion, once you recognize the force that has been calling you your entire life, you are faced with a choice. Will you follow it, or will you turn away? Because stepping into your will means stepping beyond comfort, beyond safety, beyond everything the illusion has convinced you to cling to. And most people, even after glimpsing the truth, turn back. But what happens when you don't? What happens when you choose to step into your power, to embody this forcefully? That's where the real transformation begins. That's where you stop seeking and start becoming. Because enlightenment was never about knowledge. It was about action. It was about living the truth you now see. And that's where most people fail. Because the final step of awakening is the hardest, bringing this realization into the world, living it every single day in everything you do. But those who do, they change everything. So how do you live as an awakened being in a world that thrives on illusion? The answer is simpler than you think, but it demands everything from you. The moment you wake up, the world doesn't change. You do. Everything around you stays the same. The people, the routines, the distractions, the illusions, they are all still there, playing out as they always have. But now, you see them for what they are. The veil has lifted, and you are no longer fooled. The question is, what do you do now? For most, awakening is a moment, not a transformation. They glimpse the truth, feel the weight of realization, and then, slowly, they slip back into their old patterns. The illusion welcomes them back with open arms, ready to lull them to sleep again. And so, they go on as before, carrying the knowledge of something greater, but never truly embodying it. This is the greatest tragedy, seeing the exit and choosing to stay in the cage. But for those who refuse to turn away, for those who step beyond knowing and into being, life itself becomes something else entirely. Because awakening is not an event. It is a practice, a way of moving through the world, a way of existing that is entirely different from the one you were conditioned to accept. Living as an awakened being does not mean withdrawing from life. It does not mean renouncing the world, abandoning responsibilities, or pretending that nothing matters. On the contrary, It means engaging with life fully, but without attachment, without illusion, without the false sense of self dictating your every move. It means moving with complete presence, seeing things as they are, and acting from a place of clarity rather than fear. The first thing you will notice is that fear begins to lose its power over you. The worries that once consumed you, what others think, what the future holds, whether you are enough, begin to fade. Not because life becomes easier, but because you no longer identify with the part of you that clings to fear. You begin to see fear as just another thought, another passing cloud in the sky of awareness. And once you see fear for what it is, it loses its control over you. The second thing that happens is that you stop chasing. The endless search for meaning, for validation, for success, it no longer controls you. Because you realize you were never lacking to begin with. You are never missing anything. You are not here to become something greater. You are here to recognize that you already are. But the most profound shift of all is in how you move through life. When you no longer act out of fear, when you no longer seek external validation, when you are no longer attached to illusion, you move differently. You begin to live in alignment with your true will, not because you are forcing anything, but because there is no longer resistance. The flow of existence moves through you effortlessly, and you find yourself exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you were meant to do. People will notice. Some will be drawn to it, sensing something unshakable in you. Others will resist it, feeling unsettled by something they cannot define. Because when you stop playing by the rules of illusion, you disrupt the entire game. The world around you expects conformity, predictability, and obedience. But you no longer fit into those expectations. You are something else now, something beyond. But living this way comes with a challenge, because once you see through the illusion, you cannot unsee it. You will walk through a world where people are still trapped in falsehoods, still clinging to identities that are not real, still suffering over things that do not exist. And you will want to wake them up. You will want to shake them, to tell them what you now know, to pull them out of the dream. But you cannot, because awakening is not something you can force upon others. Just as no one could have forced you to see before you were ready, you cannot force anyone else. You can only be an example. You can only embody the truth, live it fully, and let those who are ready find their own way. That is the greatest act of service. Not preaching, not convincing, but simply being. And as you walk this path, one truth will become undeniable. The world is not something happening to you. It is something happening through you. You are not in life. Life is in you. You are not separate from existence. You are existence itself. And when you finally live from this understanding, you realize something incredible. The struggle was never real. The search was never necessary. The fear was never yours to begin with. Most people will never reach this point. They will stay trapped, believing they are just a person, just a name, just a body, moving through time. They will stay locked in the illusion because it is familiar, because it is safe, because waking up requires losing everything they thought they were. But you are different. Because you made it here, you are listening, you are remembering. And now, there's only one thing left to do. Live it. Because knowing the truth is meaningless if you don't embody it. Seeing the illusion is useless if you still play by its rules. Awakening is not about what you know. It is about what you do with it.
We can. Put you in the sickle for the harvest is right. We ain't down for wickedness, false prophets are lying. Woman to the wicked grass of blind.
God damn it.
Unquenchable flame, stars fall in the night. Shemayim snapped the scroll, mountains fled in the anger. Hills a flock of rams, skipping special forces, recon angels. Really by no labels, we bout labor for the souls. Wells up in infinite, waters coming forth. Spiritual revival, dehydration shall I pour. Kept the run down to the Mount cool floor. Kingdom heaven in me is parts of the Morbin head. treasure like deep in you, key to the never end. We all a real fragment, piece of the sea sledge, point of a center. He segment filled in with ether. He'll be on the end, you're passing the present teacher. Pre-sealed and covered in Nehemiah, not Easter. We all a real fragment, piece of the sea sledge, point of a center. He segment filled in with ether. He'll be on the end, you're passing the present teacher. Pre-sealed and covered in Nehemiah, not Easter. Not a game, stolen the soul arrangement, adversary in the details, mirrors and smoking angels, incriminating emails, fake news, read the paper, pimping who been printing, it's all designed to take ya. Division in your cells, almighty sustain, ain't got how relying on nothing else. In trouble, it's all vapor, elder wind in the sails, the water, the whole rainbow, reclamation, just a vessel, a wrestle, Jonah you came for. Stay mind, woe with holy who, Lord, if they only knew how they controlling you, thought still a slave. Look how they holding you, enemy scoping you, word on my wing. Stay mind, woe with holy who, Lord, if they only knew how they controlling you, thought still a slave. Look how they holding you, enemy scoping you, word on my wing. Force tremendous, Bill Adam breath, living dust, mushy for the enemy, burnt down like a Dutch. Once upon a distant, dirty sackcloth in the ashes. Truth don't grow with mischief, prayer get raised about the ashes. Save me from the Mario, it fell of not your pasture. Had you not an anchor, if you save me, I'll be thrown. Thorn to the thief, leech, mind to the corn. Stone in the sling, sing signs in the storm. Rock foundation, time echo with the north. Recon over game, wings fly with the force. All purpose type material to camouflage your course. Tiger stripe, orange, red drip from the source. We all array, your fragment piece of the sea sledge, point of a center. He segment filled in with ether. He'll be on it then, you're passing the present teacher. Pre-sealed and covered in Nehemiah, not Easter. Stay mind, dwell with holy who, Lord, if they only knew how they controlling you, thought still a slave. Look how they holding you, enemy scoping you, word on my word. Stay mind, dwell with holy who, Lord, if they only knew how they controlling you, thought still a slave. Look how they holding you, enemy scoping you, word on my wing.
All right, let's get into it. I'm here. It's touch and go. Still having some tests and challenges of my faith and of my body politic. So yeah, forgive me if I'm a little bit reserved, I guess. It's a good time for that. It's a good time for change in a lot of different ways, and that's one of them. A more reserved, somewhat contrite white gorilla, as I've been called. So I got a couple supplements coming today. Going to try them out, see if it makes any difference. Do my best to avoid medical intervention. You got a right to travel, Queens, no license and insurance. Let's go to that.
Hey, can you roll down the back? Can't see in the car, please. Can't see in the car. All right, thank you.
How you doing?
Hey, what's up? How's everything?
Good evening.
Do you have a driver's license?
Yeah, I do. What crime did I commit?
It's a VTL violation, all right?
What's a VTL violation?
A VTL violation.
All right.
Vehicle traffic law, all right?
Hold on. Before we go any further, officer, I just want to let you know, I'm going to put you on public record, put you on public notice that you're being recorded for your safety, my safety.
Oh, on your cell phone? All right, cool.
Yeah, because I got that right.
No, yeah. Look, you're recorded right
All right,
here,
cool.
too.
No, I just want to make
Sorry.
Yeah, go
The
ahead.
camera's off, actually. Now it's on.
All right, cool. So,
let's start this over, all right? I'm Officer 3, all right?
Okay.
You're being pulled over right now because your license plate, all right, is not a valid license plate. And there's no plate light, so it's hard to read it, all right? So you need a license plate light above the license plate. So it looks like under the trunk lid, when you pop the trunk lid, there's 2 bulbs that you could change. They're burnt out right now. That's why you're being pulled over, all right?
All right, so before we go any further,
yeah,
I'm just letting you know that you're being recorded.
Cool.
I'm being recorded.
Excellent.
For my safety, your safety, and for court purposes if we have to go there. Now,
man, listen,
no. So now, I'm just letting you know that I'm putting on public record. So now, my next question to you is,
what's up?
Are you gonna uphold the Constitution?
Of course.
Yes
always.
or no? Okay, cool. So what crime did I commit?
VTL violation, all right?
Is that a crime?
Yes.
What crime is that?
Well, driving is a privilege, all right?
Driving. All right, but
Yes.
I'm traveling, so I'm letting you know that right now.
All right,
I have
great.
the free rights to travel.
You're traveling.
Yeah. So
Your VIN is blocked, sir.
yeah,
Why
that's
is
for private reasons. So can you get me your sergeant?
He's right here.
Okay, so can I speak to a sergeant?
Yeah,
then?
sure. Is everything okay tonight?
Yeah, I'm just dropping my girlfriend off.
Okay. Where do you live at, bro?
I live down there. My girlfriend lives over here.
All right, just yeah, this is the sergeant right here. Just talk to him.
How you
what's going on,
doing,
sir? How are you,
officer?
Sergeant Phil?
How you doing? My name is Joseph Sato. Do you know I have the free rights to travel?
Okay, I understand that.
Okay.
And I
Now,
respect that.
is there RAS over here?
RAS, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Is there a reasonable, articulable, suspicious of why I'm being pulled over?
Yes.
Okay. What crime did I commit?
The crime that you committed is a vehicle and traffic law violation. Okay, the VTL of New York State.
And that's a crime?
Yes.
Or
It's
violation?
a violation.
Because a crime is two different things.
Okay, no, and I understand that, and I'm just going to explain to you as a police officer or a police officer in the city of New York, the state of New York, a violation made in our presence is a crime, and it is a possible arrestable offense. Now,
Really?
yes. Now, to further just explain, the reason why we're asking for any type of identification that you might have is because in New York State, it is a privilege to drive a motor vehicle.
Okay.
It is
now,
the only time in New York State that you have to supply a type of identification. So if you have any type of paperwork, anything with your name on, just so I can verify who you are, because we do have to fill out a report called a vehicle report for every car that we stop. It's a city law that they enacted that we have to document. That's the reason why we're asking. Or I could just take your information verbally if you'll allow that.
Yeah, you can take my information verbally, but I'm letting you know right now, I'm traveling. You're trying to give me a violation for driving, and I'm not driving. I'm traveling. I have the free rights to travel.
And I
Now,
understand
if you're trying to implement a violation for driving on someone who's traveling, you're violating my liberal rights, and you're being recorded, and you're trying to tell me that that violation applies to me when I'm trying to let you know that I'm traveling.
All right.
I didn't eat the red light. I didn't put nobody's life at danger. I didn't commit a crime. I'm dropping my girlfriend off.
Oh, and I totally understand.
And you're trying to implement motor vehicle violation codes on someone who's in an automobile traveling. That's two different things, Sergeant.
Okay.
You do know I have the free rights to travel. I have a 9th and 10th Amendment protective right to travel. You do understand that, correct?
Look, I'm not going to sit here and
I'm just asking you a question. No. I'm asking you a question. You do understand that, yes or no? Because we're going to go to court because you're trying to give me a violation ticket. So that means I'm going to have to go to court at one moment. So like I told your officer over here that I am recording for court purposes.
That's totally fine. Everything's recorded here.
So what did I do wrong that has to do with traveling?
What's your first name, sir?
Joseph.
JOSEPH. And your last name, sir?
Yes, which I shouldn't be giving you my information because you don't have an RAS or SAF.
Oh, man. Other than this interaction, though, how's your night going?
It's going great. Just trying to go to sleep now.
Joseph, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to argue with you back and forth. I'd rather keep this conversation, civilized like we're doing. But
it's all right.
I'm just trying to explain to you, like, me as a law enforcement officer,
yes,
the VTL states for the state of New York, you're traveling in this vehicle in the state of New York right now.
I'm traveling on my land. I have the rights to travel. It has nothing to do with a vehicle. This is an automobile. I have the free rights to just in case if you want to know if I own the car or not. Current owner, you can see it right there. Just in case if you want to know, because of that, I'll do that for private reasons because I have that free right to do that.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah, we just put the legit title.
Oh, you have a title for it?
He
Yeah.
just pulled it out.
I got all my paperwork with me.
All right, man. Yeah. Yo, my man, listen.
Yeah.
We're going to cut you a break today.
Okay.
We're not going to write you a ticket. We probably should be writing you a ticket for multiple things, but we're not going to do that today, all right?
All right.
Listen, this whole act that you're pulling, it's made up. It's not a real thing, all right? I understand maybe it works for you for certain things, but it's a made up thing, all right?
All right.
See you later.
All right. Have a good night. Yep.
Drive safely, all
You
right?
too.
Yeah, someone in chat said projection. That's exactly the point. You guys saying that a corporation is our government and using policy and code, calling it law, to interfere with the movement of property and people, is the act, is the made up hallucination. Good luck trying to convince folks who live in inversion land that that's the case. Now, with that said, he did just mention, as we know, the title. If you hold the title, you've titled yourself the owner and you've titled it the motor vehicle, right? It's called a motor vehicle title. So you've converted it on some level from an automobile federally to what would be defined as a motor vehicle. So you can't say, I'm not driving a motor vehicle, but I have a title titling it a motor vehicle that I signed, because you did at that point. At that point, you've given that title. So now you have to rebut that presumption or that contractual statement, because it's going to be right there. That's how this is affected. Is the property is titled one thing upon its origination or its manufacturing, whatever it's called, MCSO, whatever it is, as we know. At some point, the average person signs a title converting it from automobile to motor vehicle. So that's where the presumption then comes with driver, because these are commercial terms. For those in chat, there's a couple who strolled in. It's not up for debate. It's you folks are not even interested in the truth, let alone debating it. But it's not up for debate. This has all been proven. It's all been cited, right, directly from their codes federally. This isn't just something someone made up, as the cop just said. All right, let's hear from the status slaves on either side, because they're all the same, even if they're opposite. That's the favorite kind of. That's my favorite kind of same, is an opposite. We interviewed Trump, Musk, protesters, ask what happened to the resistance, and more. I just get a kick out of hearing the average slave's ideas on how their side is going to be right this time and the other side's wrong every time.
Time, if not worse, to be honest. So, we don't escape that. Not even this time. I have my poor camera guy here freezing to death, so hopefully we can get this done quick. So I'm here with
Tina, Dorothy Garcia,
B. Evans from Washington, D.C.
Alfreda Hughes from Washington, D.C.
Anita.
Give me up.
And Mella from Washington, D.C.
Yes.
We are the seniors.
Yes,
We represent the seniors here in Washington, D.C.
Joseph.
Elaine,
David.
Briella Fullerton,
and her mom, Lori. Liberty and justice for all, Kimba.
Bob Speth.
Why are you here today?
I am protesting this hostile government takeover. There's a man who is currently, taking charge of our taxes, all of the things that we paid into the government, reducing services for people who really need it, and he's the richest man in the world.
I'm here because I feel helpless. And
this is even just better proof that if Elon and Donnie were real and actually going to do something to quote unquote try to make America based on responsibility, accountability, rights, freedom, principles, spiritual faith, there'd be at least 50% of the nation, non-nation, the corporation, who would kick and scream and probably some might say, I wouldn't say this, but some might say, like, even do attacks or, use biological weapons. Who knows what the heads of these organizations and politicos and their mafias are willing to do and not do. I mean, historically, it seems that elements of both sides are, some might say, willing to, create wars, release various little ditties on people, like not Sean Combs necessarily. He's one of the ditties they released, but like back in the day, it'd say this is a nice little ditty. It's time for Clausen. It's been a while. It's been at least a few months. Oh yeah, by the way, in case there's just a few people who haven't seen this here today, this is basically an Israeli lobbyist. It's very synchronistic. Follow me here. Israeli lobbyist a good 15, 20 years ago stood up and gave a speech where he talked third person and said some folks might say, that's why I learned to do Clausen speak. It's my own dialect I've invented. Yeah, he said some people might say, and then he went on to list every major war that the United States corporation has been involved in, and pretty much said some might say, and admitted they were all staged or allowed to happen in order to carry out some political motivation that would have been untimely had it not been for these disasters occurring, right? So it's kind of like Hillary and Rahm Emanuel's version of never let a crisis go to waste, and even create some if you have to, and then not let them go to waste.
I frankly think that crisis initiation is really tough. And it's very hard for me to see how the United States president can get us to war with Iran. Which leads me to conclude that if, in fact, compromise is not coming, that the traditional way of America gets to war is what would be best for U.S. interests. Some people might think that Mr. Roosevelt wanted to get us into World War II, as David mentioned. You may recall we had to wait for Pearl Harbor. Some people might think Mr. Wilson wanted to get us into World War I. You may recall he had to wait for the Lusitania episode. Some people might think that Mr. Johnson wanted to send troops to Vietnam. You may recall he had to wait for the Gulf of Tonkin episode. We didn't go to war with Spain until the until the Maine exploded. And may I point out that Mr. Lincoln did not feel he could call out the Federal Army until Fort Sumter was attacked, which is why he ordered the commander at Fort Sumter to do exactly that thing which the South Carolinians had said would cause an attack. So if, in fact, the Iranians aren't going to compromise, it would be best if somebody else started the war. One can combine other means of pressure with sanctions. I mentioned that explosion on August 17th. We could step up the pressure. I mean, look, people, Iranian submarines periodically go down. Someday one of them might not come up. Who would know why? We can do a variety of things if we wish to increase the pressure. I'm not advocating that, but I'm just suggesting that this is not a either-or proposition. It's just sanctions has to succeed or other things. We are in the game of using covert means against the Iranians. We could get nastier at that.
Yeah, that's always fascinating too, when he advocates for it and then says he's not advocating for it. All right, let's continue a few more minutes of this, and then I'm going to go to How to Win at Court series with Carl Lentz, and then I'm going to get up out of here.
This is all I could think of to do at the moment.
I'm protesting for two reasons. No billionaires in the White House and no supporting the RFK Stadium billionaires. Taking out tax dollars, $85 million to support the NFL. No, that's not right. Use that money otherwise.
And I'm voting for Musk shouldn't be in the White House, and they should put civics back in the schools because these kids do not know about their democracy.
And I'm voting for Department of Education Pell Grants for my grandchildren and to bring civics education back to these middle school kids.
To ask Congress to do their job, to protest the spread of fascism in America.
So I see that you brought the NATO flag. Why do you bring it?
NATO is the strongest alliance of liberal democracies on earth. It's been a force of good in the world, deterrence that prevents the spread of totalitarian dictatorships and regimes, and it's stopped countless genocides across the world for 35 years. It's a great organization. We should not pull out of it. We have to keep NATO going. It's a force for peace in the world.
We're here because we didn't elect Mr. Musk, and we want fairness in our country. We don't want to lose our democracy over these crazy decisions that are being made.
I'm here because I don't want America to lose our place in the world as a protector and helper of people that are in need, that need us.
Because Trump should not be our president. He's just a bad influence on the country and us. He just doesn't deserve it.
I feel like it's not even about politics anymore or philosophy. It's about protecting the Constitution. And I think it's a Republican Congress, so sure, we expect things to sway the Republican direction, but we didn't expect this complete just ignoring law and Constitution. So that's why we're here.
Because this is abhorrent. The so-called president and the so-called assistant without any clearance, who's a billionaire earning billions of dollars in government contract, which come from your taxes if you're an American, and my taxes, is funding his SpaceX program. Trump is unilaterally trying to dismantle people's lives without thinking about their families, their rent, their freedom to be who they are. He's going after things that are full of hatred, and he doesn't represent me at all. And this is President's Day, but he is not my president.
I am here because I want to defend democracy against the tyranny of Trump and Musk and that other guy, JD Rants.
I want to defend a tyrannical system that interferes with private property and individuals' rights to protect us from a system that interferes with rights and private property. It doesn't get any better.
Of all the things that have happened in the past month, what is it that concerns you the most?
The most, oh my God, there's so many things though. The most is saying, trying to sabotage and dismantle a lot of the systems that Americans have already paid for, that we all have already, I've already paid my taxes for this infrastructure, for the people working for our country to, keep those streets paved and keep, kids getting lunches at schools and all that good stuff that we've already paid for. Cutting those programs is wrong and it's unfair.
All the people who are losing their jobs, their benefits, the world, the U.S. aid thing bothers me to no end. I'm genuinely worried.
Elon Musk, an unelected government official that nobody even saw on a ballot, taking charge of so much that affects our daily lives.
Oh, wow. That's a hard.
Folks in the chat asking the predictable, silly questions. What's wrong with rooting for NATO and democracy? Because you have no idea what it is. You're rooting for it because someone told you to. And if you were told what it was, you would understand it's the antithesis of what you think it is. So you literally believe it's one thing when it's exactly the opposite. And it is everything that you're helping to create and build that you don't want. You're funding it and you're spelling it and you're doing the sorcery to conjure it. That's the game here in inversion land. So democracy, the root word is mob rule. It's akin to collectivism, which is why you have taxation, which is socialism. It's a redistribution of wealth. And the worst part is the code outlines it's all voluntary. So because you think it's for freedom, which you think is akin to democracy, you sign up, whether you know it or not, to pay slave tax to fund a system to redistribute your rights and property. See? And that's part of what NATO and other organizations do. That's like the mob, right? It's called mafias locally, statewide, worldwide. They get together, they put suits on, they smoke cigars, they drink liquor, and they talk about how they're going to sell the dumb, duped out public a story of how they're going to protect them and keep them safe and give them a few luxuries and services, all for like a small interest payment at the end of every month. See, it's just that easy. It's just that quick. It's just that simple. It tends to work. So one day you're going to wake up and you're going to get your head out of your ass and you're going to realize democracy is a sister of socialism. Socialism is what everyone has been experiencing for at least hundreds of years because the Constitution's been amended. And when you genuflect to democracy and the Constitution, you're unaware that there are multiple forms and they always lead to the same place, because look around you, you might be one of them, at the discernment and the awareness or lack thereof, and wonder why this always goes the same way, because the majority of people who occupy this place are a bunch of broken hoes who don't want to see the truth, who will ignore the truth and choose to believe in a fantasy and get pimped on all the live long day. Okay, so unfortunately, it's not only going to continue, it's going to get worse. because folks still in the modern day world want to run around after thousands of years of experience extolling the lack of virtues they call democracy, which is collectivism, communism. It's everything antithetical to what makes a land great and free and prosperous, typically. And I appreciate the questions, because questions are good. They lead to answers. We are a constitutional republic, right? The problem is that the constitutional republic, the Constitution was amended, and they created ladder amendments that turned you into citizenry, and you signed up for that on all your papers and called yourself that because the public fool system taught you to. And the majority of apes and genes here just repeat whatever the fuck they're told by the dunces they call parents or the dunces they call teachers, and or both, right? So was a constitutional republic. That's been long gone for hundreds of years, because they amended the Constitution to include a public safety clause where they created a legislature and citizenry, and they haven't stopped the ball from rolling since. And the majority of dumbass slaves are signed up to be tax-paying, voting citizens, which are considered trustees of U.S. corporation. That's why they're imposed obligations and duties and responsibilities onto them. And that's why both sides are in fascista, because the definition of fascism is the merger of state and corporate powers. I'll do you one better. We'll just have the corporate powers become the state of. That's even better than fascism. That's fascism 2.0. If you ask Mr. Mussolini, who coined the term, and of course, he may have coined a term as far as he was one of the beings who released a word and a definition, but this has been going on from the beginning of time. Folks getting together, realizing how pathetic and desperate and duped out the public is, and providing a promise to pay or a promise to serve at the whim of being able to put their hands in the cookie jar whenever they please, and having some level of worldly power and false authority. It's a rather interesting spiritual game that we like to play. So nothing new. Even if a being coins a term, it doesn't change that the experience has always been the experience. And from the beginning of time, there's one thing that history shouts out over the moon at us is this same dynamic over and over again: consciousness and awareness, or lack thereof. And one of the elements of lack of consciousness and awareness is how we're being pimped and played by ourselves and those around us, right? It is the deceiver that we call Satan or Shaitan from the beginning of time. That's why we refer to a spiritual or a conscious dynamic, because it's kind of one and the same. Conscious and awareness, spiritual dynamic, one and the same to a degree as far as I perceive it. From the beginning of time, seemingly to the end of time, folks will sit around and beg and borrow and steal and project and reject, all to manifest this hallucination of systems and services that they believe are going to make their lives and others better. And all it does is interfere with true success and prosperity. But it's necessary. See the paradox, how it's resolved? It's necessary because spiritually and conscious and awareness, the majority of these folks are not able to govern themselves. So it would make sense that universally someone or something would come in to help to do it for them. See, that's a choice, even if we don't see it as such.
Question, because so much has happened. Just watching him make all those executive orders and cutting out the federal workers and education department. It's too much to name. It's just so much we got to stand up for. Get back to the Constitution and our civil rights, our basic rights. Spending my tax dollars the way you want. No, that's not working for me.
And report it to the director. Bring civics education back. Please do not shut down the Department of Education. We have special needs adults, IEP. Please, they need the money, the loans. These kids need to be educated. Thank you.
And also, we don't need a narcissistic in the White House. He's a narcissistic mega
That's
billionaire.
also you.
We don't need him in there.
That's you. We just want to be.
All you got to do when any of these people from either side speaks is just recognize it's pure projection without any awareness. Like oftentimes I know when I'm speaking, I'm presuming or even projecting, but I have an awareness that these dynamics apply to me as well. That function right there is just completely absent with the majority of these folks who I guess call themselves the public. or referred to as that.
Here and be with the people to let them know that this is a melting pot and you can't stop it. This whole blend together, stop the hate, put out the love, because love wins.
Another person who's saying love wins, who has almost zero discernment or self-awareness, who literally just said two opposing things. We don't need an autistic person in the White House, but it's a melting pot, blend together, love wins. Fascinating cognitive dissonance once again.
I would say probably Mr. Musk going into with a sledgehammer and just tearing apart organizations that he knows nothing about.
I agree that there are processes in place for him to get his agenda done, and he doesn't have to do it through only executive orders, and doing it that way without any approvals of Congress or the people that actually control the purse strings is unconstitutional and not how we're supposed to run this country.
Wow.
Like everything
it was hard even to make a sign, to choose one thing. Because there's so much that's just outrageous. I mean, things that are hurting our own citizens, like cutting USAID, and $2.1 billion is no longer going to our farmers. It just, none of it even makes sense. It's just, the overwhelmed strategy is definitely working.
Okay, for the tard in chat who keeps repeating, you're all the same. You're just like folks who come here every day who I just throw out eventually, and you're like desperate down there and clingy. So, yeah, I'm not a Republican. Stop projecting I am one, because you're a leftist. It's boring. It's old. You guys all do the same shit on both sides. You're the same person from a different, opposite perspective.
Price, taking rid of Americans' rights, our fundamental rights
That's why you
for
get
liberty.
thrown out, by the way. It's not because you're so witty and intellectual and powerful and on the money. It's because you're so predictable and monotonous and mundane and mediocre and mechanistic that I just go, yeah, I'm done with it. I'm not going to interact with it. It's almost demonic, and it usually goes nowhere. So I'm going to save myself and others the trouble of having a back and forth with essentially someone who I'd be better off having a back and forth with the dog outside. Right? I've done it enough to know it goes nowhere, and folks like to be entertained by me going off, and I'm healing from dis-ease. So I don't need to be getting animated and getting my blood pressure up. So I'm making a conscious choice to just have as few dolts and dupes and deceivers around as possible, because there's just no point. Come back in like 6 months or so. Maybe things will get better in faith, and we can have the nonsensical back and forth where you think you're proving points and you think I'm not making sense. And it's exactly the opposite of that experience. My free speech. There you go. But see, you guys aren't great with context and nuance. It's free speech as far as a place that is not owned or controlled or administrated by someone, right? So like, and that's where you can't draw the distinction between we have tools here to avoid folks like you projecting your nonsense constantly where it's not wanted, right? You don't get a right to go all over a platform and say and do whatever you want. If you want to do that, where you do get that right is by becoming a content creator. See, if you want to create your own channel and you want to just project and vomit out your message 24/7, 365, you can do that. You don't get to go to someone else's platform and stage or housing area, however you want to consider it, and have unfettered access to do and say whatever you want. That's a choice, right? I'm not a service provider. I don't have a contract with you. I don't owe you a debt. I've made no guarantees to you or anyone else. You get what I give you, right? So it's less than democracy and republic here with me. I'm very tyrannical, if that's how you want to see it. So making the false equivalency of walking down the street and wanting to be able to say or do whatever you want to do versus coming up in here, which is a limited sort of open to the public interaction, right? Like if I have a business, I'm not saying I wouldn't be subject to some federal lawsuit, and it could go either way. But ultimately, if I have a business or a place that I reside, if you want to call it that, and I don't want you around anymore, I'm going to ask you to leave. Because I have no contract with you. I'm not open to the public generally as a public servant, right? I'm here in service to the truth, whatever that is at any time. and I'm willing to interact on those terms. If you want to just vomit and spew and project and reject and all the rest of it, go create a channel like so many others before and after you, and do that to your heart's content. Right. But here I get to control my area, my platform, and the future of my existence. And if that doesn't require you to be in it, then you won't be.
And the pursuit of happiness. He is everything that he criticizes everyone to be. It's a reflection of who he is. There's not one single positive thing that comes out of his mouth. It's all hatred and taking away people's rights. It's taking away and ruining, not loving, not giving. And it's sickening.
Well, I'm a biomedical researcher, and I feel like he's damaging biomedical research. He's making America worse than it's ever been in history. It's just a travesty what he's doing.
According to most recent polls, Trump's approval is still in the positive territory. Do you think that has to do with a failure of Democratic leadership and their messaging, or do you think it's just too early? Why do you think so many people, in spite of everything, still approve of the job he's doing?
I think they're in an echo chamber, believing all the lies that are fed to them.
Same.
Oh, Democratic messaging is weak, unfortunately, but it's too early. We haven't had all the knock-on effects of people not able to access any of their benefits or all the knock-on effects of being unemployed.
I think there hasn't been enough time for the effects to trickle down, but I think cutting down a lot of government services plus the rise of inflation is going to make people stand up and take notice.
I hope there's more love than hate. And I hope it's not about racism, but just people, you got enough power, okay? So what's the point,
All right, I'm going to pause it there. We'll come back to it tomorrow. I'm going to leave it there, I think. I'm not even going to go to the car lens. So maybe we'll run that tomorrow. All right, I'll be back tomorrow. I'll see you folks later. Blessings to all.
We good. Put you in the sickle for the harvest is right. We ain't down for wickedness, false prophets a lie. Woman to the wicked grass of line to sight. Unquenchable flame stars fall in the night. Shemayim snap the scroll, mountains fled in the anger. Hills a flock of rams, skipping special forces, recon angels. Really by no labels, we bout labor for the source. Wells up in infinite, waters coming forth. Spiritual revival, dehydration shall I pour. Kept the run down to the mouth, cool floor. Kingdom heaven in me is parts of the morbid head. Treasure like deep in you, key to the never end. We all a ray, a fragment piece of the sea sledge. Point of a center, he segment filled in with ether. He'll be on and then you're passing the present teacher. Pre-sealed and covenant in Nehemiah, not Easter. We all a ray, a fragment piece of the sea sledge. Point of a center, he segment filled in with ether. He'll be on and then you're passing the present teacher. Pre-sealed and covenant in Nehemiah, not Easter. Not a game, stolen the soul arrangement. Adversary in the details, mirrors and smoking angels. Incriminating emails, fake news, read the paper. Pimping who been printing, it's all designed to take ya. Division in your cells, almighty sustain. Ain't got how relying on nothing else. In trouble, it's all vapor, elder wind in the sails. The water, the whole rainbow reclamation, just a vessel, a wrestle. Jonah, you came for. Stay mind, blow it holy who. Lord, if they only knew how they controlling you, thought still a slave. Look how they holding you, enemy scoping you, word on my way. Stay mind, blow it holy who. Lord, if they only knew how they controlling you, thought still a slave. Look how they holding you, enemy scoping you, word on my way. Force tremendous, Bill Adam breath, living dust, mushy for the enemy, burnt down like a Dutch. Once upon a distant, dirty sackcloth in the ashes. Truth don't grow with mischief, prayer get raised about the ashes. Save me from the mire, I would fell if not your pasture. Had you not an anchor, if you save me, I'll be thrown. Thorn to the thief, leech mind to the corn. Stone in the sling, sing signs in the storm. Rock foundation, time echo with the north. Recon over game, wings fly with the force. All purpose type material to camouflage the course. Type like a stripe, orange, red, drip from the source. We all array your fragment piece of the ceaseless point of a center. He segment filled in with ether. He'll be on it then, you're passing the present teacher. Pre-sealed and covenant, Nehemiah, not Easter. Stay mind what we're holding you. Lord, if they only knew how they controlling you. Thought still a slave. Look how they holding you, enemy scoping you. Word on my word. Stay mind what we're holding you. Lord, if they only knew how they controlling you. Thought still a slave. Look how they holding you, enemy scoping you. Word on my word.